empty the chamber on them. And how do you do that? First 6 seconds, point A to point B, everything you got. Everything you got. Turn that shit up. Let's go.
Welcome to Scoop World Order. We have a crazy, crazy day. A lot of stuff is going on in the world of Ohio State football. We have breaking news on Trey Henderson being out of the Peach Bowl. We were hoping he was able to give it a go and play, but he is going to have surgery on that much maligned foot. The plantar fasciitis did not heal. Very painful stuff. He's going to get that cleaned up and get ready for spring ball. Transfer portal, another Buckeye in the portal. A lot of recruiting news. A lot of NIL news. Ryan Day had the mic today at the press conference, had some interesting things to say. So we're going to get right to that with Nevada and Bank. But first, as always, we're thankful for you guys. We are grateful for you guys. We are doing this every night leading up to the Peach Bowl. It is absolutely crazy right now. We're having a blast doing it. We appreciate you guys tuning in, getting some big audiences, a lot of questions. Appreciate you guys in the chat. Leave us a like. That really helps the video. And we really appreciate you guys for tuning in with us. And join BuckeyeScoop.com. That is where 99% of our content is. So we appreciate you guys. That being said, going to bring in my good friend, Bill, the Sportsbook Greene, because he's going to the Cosmopolitan this weekend, you lucky dog. And Nevadabuck. Nevada, how are you?
Doing great. Not as good as Bill going to Vegas, but feeling good.
Good. Bank, Bank, you... any big bets you're excited to lay down at the Sportsbook this week?
No, not at all. Actually, I am transitioning out of my offshore accounts and going to go legal on January 1 when Ohio finally goes legal. So, yeah, I do everything over my phone. So nothing. I just like being out there, you know. And actually, it's Carolyn's Christmas present every year. You know, I take her to Vegas every fall or winter, and it just so happens this year that the Patriots and the Raiders are playing when we're out there. And I know a couple coaches on the Raiders, couple coaches on the Patriots. There's parents of a couple of coaches going. It's going to be a good time. We're looking forward to it. So she gets the bulk of the vacation's hers, and I carry the packages. And she likes going to football games, so that'll be a fun time on Sunday.
Yeah, I think that's one of the coolest looking stadiums. It looks like the Death Star. It's all black, Allegiant Stadium. I think that's going to be a blast for you. Nevada, have you been to Allegiant Stadium yet?
I have, and actually, my kid's going to be going to the game this weekend. Going to go hang out with Matt Collins. Matt Collins' guest because Matt Collins, believe it or not, his mom used to work for my wife. And so, it's kind of weird. It's like a weird world. She was talking about this kid and how he's a good player and this and that and everything like that. Turns out plays for the Raiders. So he's hosting Funky this weekend in Vegas. So Funky's going to be there sporting the Hollins jersey and everything. So big times.
Wow. I actually had him on my fantasy team this year because he's the number 2 guy behind Devontae. And so he's actually had a pretty nice year with Waller and Hunter Renfrow being hurt for the whole year. So, wow. Small world, Bank. There you go. Yeah. Baby Nevada and Bank tearing up Vegas together. That'll be amazing.
Or little Nevada, little Funky in Bank. That'll be awesome.
That is awesome. Well, the bad news of the day is Trey Henderson announced he is out. He's getting surgery. Bank, do you believe that with Trey Henderson officially being out, that Dallan Hayden will play before the fourth quarter versus Georgia?
Man, I hope so. I mean, I hope he gets the start and gets 30 carries. I mean, I thought, just me, my amateur opinion here, I thought he saved their bacon against Maryland, a game that could have been a loss. They could have easily lost that game, and they really needed to run the ball to get back into that game. And Dallan Hayden was tremendous. I mean, and I would have thought the O-line would have loved blocking for that guy. And I thought he would have got 30 carries against Michigan, and, that sure didn't happen. And, they were opening gigantic holes against Michigan in the first half. And, Chip Trayanum played his butt off, but he was coming into that game with 1 carry, and he's not as explosive as what Dallan was. So and then they gave the ball to Mayan a lot, and Mayan, God bless him. He played his butt off. He tried. But he's just not healthy, and he couldn't get through those holes. And, boy, I kept watching that thinking, man, Dallan Hayden, these would be gigantic gains where Chip Trayanum had these 7 and 8 yard gains. Dallan Hayden could have been 37, 38 yard gains. And why the heck he didn't play, it's beyond me. And I know it's been addressed in a couple different press conferences. And, I would just say that Ryan Day is very lucky that he's not in New York City facing that press, and he gets to face the Columbus press corps. It's a lot easier to get by those guys than it would be if he was in Boston, or New York City, somewhere like that. There would have been follow-up questions, and they wouldn't just say, "Oh, that's cool." They wouldn't have said, "Oh, that's cool." That would have been they would have said, "Excuse me, I have a follow-up or 3." So I thought, I threw Tony Alford under the bus today, and I don't know. I don't know. Dallan Hayden should have got the ball against Michigan.
Yeah, Nevada. The quote we're talking about is Ryan Day at the microphone today said that he was asked why did Dallan Hayden not play against Michigan until like the end of the game. We started Chip, who had 1 carry coming into the game. Chip played fine, but we're playing Mayan, who's clearly dinged up. And Ryan said it was just a flow of the game thing. Quote, Tony Alford makes no decisions. It's your reaction to that, because I thought that was kind of interesting that he threw that out there, because I thought Dallan should have started and played the whole game, because if there's a position where you can be a big time impact guy as a freshman, it's tailback. I mean, we saw Maurice Claret, Beanie Wells in 06 was a big part of our running game. I've seen it over and over again. If a guy's a really talented freshman, hell, Trey Henderson last year when he was a freshman was just phenomenal. Nevada, what's your reaction to that quote that Tony Alford makes those decisions on the rotation?
Well, I mean, show me the lie. It's the fact. That's what we had this discussion on the discussion on the message board, and people were talking about who makes the calls on these rotations. And I'm like, what's the position coach? The head coach doesn't call which running back's going to be in, or what 3 wide receivers are coming out in a particular set. There's just too much going on. There's not enough time for him to get down to that micro level. So he wasn't lying when he said that those decisions are made by someone else. Now we get to the other issues. Was it the right decision? No, I think again, you're talking about Alford, who I think's fine, but Alford's the same guy who started Master Teague over Trey Sermon. And so the fact that he's making some calls, running a Mayan, Mayan when he's healthy is obviously better than Dallan, better than Chip, but he wasn't healthy, and he cost us some potential big carries against Michigan. And why Dallan wasn't getting more run in the Michigan game is like a complete mystery to me. But as for that comment, it was 100% accurate. Those were Tony Alford's decisions. He made the decisions. It was interesting to see Ryan Day, kind of pointed out, but like you said, he's got a very generous and kinder, gentler press corps that he gets to deal with here in Columbus. So he got away with that one pretty unscathed.
Beck, you're shaking your head. Go ahead, please.
Do you think when Nick Saban's in the biggest game of the year that the running back coach gets to put out whoever he wants, and Nick says, well, what am I going to do? What can I do? The running back coach put out who he wants. Nothing I can do. How about when Tony Alford says, I'm going to start Chip Trayanum, and you say, you have to go for drug testing, and I'm going to start Dallan Hayden, dude. Please. Well, are you on drugs?
Nick doesn't call plays. That's the difference. Nick doesn't call plays.
Don't you train him out there? Can't Ryan Day see that and say, why is our linebacker out there, starting the game? What are we doing? You're the head coach. You're responsible for everything as a head coach. This, again, reminds me, Kirk and I talked about this today, when Ohio State got blasted by Clemson in that bowl game, 31-0. Tim May's question to Urban Meyer was, it seemed kind of strange that you threw the ball on 19 the first 25 plays. And Urban Meyer said, we did? I didn't realize that. It's like, dude, are you at the game? You know what I mean? Did you miss the first quarter? You got caught in traffic or what? You're the head coach. You're responsible for everything. So, especially the starting running back, when you see a linebacker who had carried the ball one time all year, I mean, that had to have been discussed. Like, hey, I'm going to start Chip. Hey, that's a great idea.
Yeah,
Or what are
yeah,
you
but
doing?
yeah, but
Are you, you know,
I just don't see, like I said, the Chip thing. I mean, what did Chip average? 6 yards a carry or something like that? I mean, Chip wasn't the problem against Michigan. Now, whether Dallan could have broken bigger runs or who knows? We'll never know. It's one of those unanswerable things. But Chip didn't have a bad game. I mean, he played well.
he was okay. He was okay for a guy that had never played, hadn't carried the ball all year, and had been with the linebackers most of the year. I mean, to me, that's a strange call. Why didn't you go to Chip? But wait a minute. Why didn't you go to Chip in the second half of the Maryland game?
Again, I'm not going to sit here and defend the decision. I'm just saying the Chip decisions, trying to say that, mistaking responsibility for something and making the calls, it'd be like, Ryan Day is going to make the call as to every wide receiver that's going to be out in the field in every set or every defensive lineman. You're telling me that Ryan Day is making the call as to who's going to be out on every play? Got no chance. No,
that wasn't every play. He started the game. That wasn't every play. He started the game. So obviously that was discussed.
We're talking about the rotation. We're talking about who gets out, who goes out there in the rotation. I don't believe that a head coach who's calling plays is making the call.
No,
I don't believe he's going X, Y, 4, 7 press. And by the way, get me in there. I want
So you're saying he didn't know who the running back was? He just didn't. He wasn't aware.
I didn't say he wasn't aware. I just said that's not.
And he signed off on it. Then he signed off on it.
Yeah, I think he signed off.
Alford when the guy got 12 carries after the 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th carry. Ryan Day's like, this is the way to go.
I'm not saying that, but again, I just thought I didn't watch that game and thought, man, Chip is killing us. His 6 yards of carry is really killing us.
Okay. Then in the press conference, Ryan Day should have said this was the right move. It was the absolute right move to play Chip Trayanum. He didn't do that.
Well, I didn't watch the press conference. I just listened to the quote and the question about who decides on who goes in on a particular play. That's the position coach. It's always been the position coach. It's been that way at Ohio State since the beginning of time.
Yeah, I disagree. If Corey Dennis wanted to put in the freshman walk-on quarterback, would Ryan Day, well, there's nothing I can do. The position coach wants to play Jimmy Frederick.
No, you're using your head.
He went along with it. Ryan Day totally signed off on that.
You're using an extreme example, and my point is the head coach does not make the individual calls on a play-to-play basis about who's on the field. It's impossible for him to do that.
He absolutely signed off on Chip Trayanum getting 12 carries. He 1,000% signed off on that because after one or two of them, he would have said, get Dallan in there. And he never did that.
No, but that's not that. You're conflating two different issues. You're saying, going with something. I'm talking about on a play-to-play basis on who's on the field, as opposed to an overall strategy about what they're going with. I mean, I don't know.
Do you think if they would have said before the game, if Hartline would have said, I think we need to get Marvin out of there and we need to go with Jimmy Johnson instead? I mean, position coach decides that's what we have to do. I would have thought deciding who the starting running back would be for that game would have been a huge topic of discussion between Tony Alford and Ryan Day. I think they would have discussed that.
I'm sure it was. And again, it's not like
Ryan signed off on it.
You're talking about Dallan Hayden like he was O.J. Simpson or something like that. I mean, Dallan Hayden was fine. They decided they wanted to go with a bigger back. Dallan Hayden also has had a problem fumbling in practice, and I think they were really worried about his fumbling.
That's a bunch of bull crap.
They've been talking about that all year.
I mean, that's bull crap.
That's not bull crap.
They were in trouble against Maryland. They went to Dallan Hayden. Weren't they scared of him fumbling against Maryland?
They didn't have any choice. Wait a minute. They
could have played Chip Trayanum. You're so all over the board here. It's ridiculous.
Chip was hurt that day. That's why he didn't play. Chip had a pulled hamstring that week. That's why he didn't play.
I'm glad he got healthy quick.
Yeah, that happened.
Well, Ryan Day 1,000% signed off on it, and that's fine. That's his job as the head coach.
All right, so who are you starting in the Peach Bowl at running back?
Well, you're going to start mine if he's healthy.
That'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see if he can get
Mayan
all the way
was not
back.
healthy, then it does get interesting. If Mayan's not healthy, then it does get interesting.
Yeah, because he looked, I mean, it was kind of like watching J.K. I don't know if you guys watched J.K. Dobbins yesterday, but at the end of his last run, he looked like he looked like Mayan did against Michigan. It's going to be interesting because, like, I thought Dallan should have played more. I don't think Mayan should have played at all. I think that's something they're going to look back on. And, you know, when you play a guy that's that dinged, you leave a lot of meat on the bone, you know, with that rotation.
He got 2 series in the first quarter when the O-line was just destroying people, and Mayan got 2 series there that, I mean, he clearly just couldn't go. Love the kid, love his attitude, effort, but he couldn't go.
Yeah, and like hats off to him for trying to strap up and go, but fuck, I mean, you know, it's like when you get it blocked up and you can't take advantage of it, man, it is tough because that was something when we were really good in 06 and 07. We broke long runs against Michigan. Beanie did. He broke a couple. Pittman broke a long one in 06. I mean, those are like, you know, you got to cash those in. Like you saw, imagine if Michigan had in guys that couldn't break away from the pack, and like look at how it killed us. Like again, our 5 plays for 7,000 yards or whatever it was. Bank Jansen Dunn is in the portal. He's a safety, which is weird considering we're going to lose 3 safeties and we play 3 safeties in a defense. Any concern there? I usually don't concern about guys that don't letter leaving. Any concern there?
Not concerned as much as surprise. Like that seemed really weird. I know they really liked him coming in, and his skill set really fits with what they want to do back there. It's not so much concern that he can't be replaced or bringing in a bunch of DBs, but just kind of surprised that, you know, he would go this soon unless he was, you know, pushed or nudged.
Nevada, we set the over and under at 10 a couple weeks ago on the show. Over under 10 in the portal. So far we have Tarajda, we have Jansen, Jalen Johnson. So it's 3 so far. Do you think there's another 7 that are going to move on over the next month? Oh, I don't see Nevada. Looks like it's just me and you, Bank.
Oh, okay.
So, what do you think?
That's a high number. That is a high number.
Yeah, it's interesting because to me, I don't know. It seemed like it's about right because you look around between a lot of these programs, they already have 10 in, but I think that a lot of it is just the fact that what options do you have? Because I feel like most of these guys that are transferring out in one day they commit to where they're going. You know, they're doing the back room bartering kind of deal, and I mean,
I would.
Yeah, I would.
Unless you're nudged, you know what I mean? If you're nudged or more than nudged, then you don't have a choice. You know what I mean? But I just to jump in the portal, unless you're a superstar can jump in the portal and then look for his home. But if you're just a run-of-the-mill player, I think it's dangerous to do that. Now, if you're an Ohio State scholarship kid, that's a little different.
Yeah.
You know, than a backup from Indiana jumping in the portal with nowhere to go. You know, and I never know. Like I say, these kids if you're jumping in there with nowhere to go, thinking that all these schools are going to come running for you, man, that is a dangerous game.
Yeah, it's a scary game. Like to me, I would have to know where I'm going, what I'm doing before I even submit my name. Because like once you're in, you're out. Once you put your name in the portal, it's like jumping off a building. Like there's, Ohio State does not have to take you back. Ryan Day does not have to take you back. You know, it's just, it's one of those situations where I think that, like I would have my stuff 99.9% of the way. So as soon as I turn my name to the portal, I'm jumping to the next spot. And a lot of these guys, when you're a guy like, like a guy like Taraj, a guy like Kayvon Pope, you're probably jumping to a lower level where you're guaranteed to start.
Got to get on the field.
Got to get on the field. Like you can't be a guy that,
Right.
Because like some of these guys, like if you're a junior or a senior and you didn't even letter this year, you didn't even play special teams. Like I don't know what you do. I guess you turn in some practice film and send that around to coaches, but it's hard when you don't have something lined up ready to go. On the the Georgia front, yeah, me and you, we have these like, it kills me. We have these long phone conversations, and it turns into, God, I wish I would have made this a podcast. But you talked about the key to the game. You mentioned got to make Stetson Bennett beat you throwing the ball. I totally
I
agree
think
with
so.
you. You got to start fast.
Yeah.
Bank,
Yeah.
give me kind of your dream opening to the Ohio State game. Do you defer to the second half? Do you take the ball, try to put pressure on Georgia right away? What would you do if you're Ryan and you win the toss?
Yeah, I would take the ball. I
Oh,
absolutely would take the ball. And I think the best thing for Ohio State would be to sting Georgia early.
yeah,
Kind of like they did against Clemson in 2020. You know, get the lead and build that lead if you can. I mean, obviously every coach wants to do that, but I mean, I think it's so important rather than easing into the game. Let Georgia get the ball first and ease into the game. I don't think you can ease into this one. If Georgia gets control of the score, of the clock, of the style of play, I think Ohio State's in big trouble. If they're
yeah.
running the ball down Ohio State's throat, a lot of 75-yard drives over 8 minutes, 12 plays, just wearing that defense out, I just think Ohio State's in trouble. I think Ohio State has to control the pace of play, make it a faster pace of play. Kind of like what Alabama did to Ohio State, what Ohio State has done to Clemson. Really get that style of play juiced up. I would look to really sting them early. I mean, even maybe coming out in a hurry up, something that they haven't seen before, something they haven't prepared for. You know, would be my way of playing it. I mean, I just think I think that the middle of the second quarter, you're going to know pretty much where this game's going, and if it's a rock fight, street fight type of game, I don't think that's what Ohio State wants. I think they want a fast pace, up and down basketball on grass type of game. But like I say, there's different ways to win a football game, but that's the way I would think Ohio State would want to play it.
Yeah, I think that in a game where they have a huge advantage on the defensive line, especially the interior, and they're really deep on the defensive line, go fast. Because if you go fast and you don't substitute, then they can't rotate those guys out. And those guys
Right.
hate
Right.
that. Jalen Carter
Yeah.
and those guys, they're phenomenal players. But, you watch an NFL football game, they dress 7, 8 defensive linemen, and those guys all play. They all rotate
Yeah.
in. It's not, you don't
Yeah.
get Chase Young or Nick Bosa for 75 straight plays. Like those guys are rotating in and out, staying fresh. And when you go fast and no huddle and they can't sub, then all of a sudden those guys aren't used to going 7, 8, 9 plays in a row. And you run some little quick, easy plays where they have to run the field laterally. I'm telling you, I think that's the key to the game. I would do it. You have to help Matt Jones or whoever ends up playing right guard. Yeah, I think Matt's trending the right way
Wow.
to getting right. I don't know. I pray to God that he can play because, Enoch and Josh aren't ready for it. I don't think after watching them in Michigan, it was their first start. They both struggled mightily. And the Michigan interior guys aren't anywhere near what Jalen Carter is. So,
No.
you need Matt to have the game of his life and just come off the ball and just, sting him. And honestly, I think you have to run the ball. Let the offensive
agree.
line come
I
off
agree.
come off and mash. I mean, you want to let these guys get comfortable when they've got all this anxiety and all this craziness, all the stress, come off the ball. Like when we played LSU, we ran the ball right at them. And they had Dorsey and Tyson Jackson and Ali Highsmith and a bunch of all SEC guys. And we ran it right at them and we ran all over
Yeah.
them because,
Yeah.
I think some teams, they look at the names and the mock drafts and all that, and they're like, well, we can't possibly run on these guys. And then you just run at them. And magically, like, guy misses a tackle and you get 7 yards, you get 8 yards. And honestly, I think that helps calm CJ down too, because then it's not all on his right shoulder. Like
Yeah.
saying, hey, CJ, you got to throw it 70 times a day. You're probably going to get
Right.
hit 30 times. So,
Yeah.
ice up, son.
No, you can't be one-dimensional against this defense. You just can't. And I think,
Yeah.
again, this kind of leads into what everybody has talked about before is Ryan Day's play calling and keeping Georgia off balance.
Yeah.
He's really known as like a special play caller, and I think a lot of Ohio State people would debate that. but he's known nationally as one heck of a play caller. And this is a game where he has to be on his game. That chess match between Ryan Day and Kirby, I mean, that's huge. And you can't be one dimensional. You cannot just get into where it's throw every down. That's going to lead to nothing but problems. So yeah, run it. You've got to mix it up, and that's where you've got to be a better play caller than how Kirby's calling that defense. And that's going to be important. The chess match there is going to be huge as well.
Yeah, and Urban, he had a really good take on how you go against teams that have these incredible defensive lines. You got to have about 15 to 20 plays, in the script that you don't have to block anybody, like nakeds, sprint outs, bootleg. You move the pocket. He's not just standing there like a statue where, if one guy misses his block, he gets drilled by Jalen Carter or one of these fantastic ends they have. You got to move the pocket. You got to make it hard on him. You can't just have him stand there. One of the things that, again, I know I always talk about it, but, if you get him out on the edge and it's a sprint out and he has some room and he can go get 6 yards and slide and not take a hit, and you can make it 2nd and 4. I think in a game like this, I think every yard is golden. I think every yard is something that, CJ has to go after. And, again, like the funny thing about this bank is we always talk about this because, we talk about people are down and people are down on Twitter and the board and the morale and all this. And I'm like, and I literally said to you, I was like, this has a chance to be the greatest Ohio State team of all time, which I know that sounds like the dumbest, thing in the world because we just got housed by Michigan at home. But these guys literally have a chance to be the greatest Ohio State team ever because they're going to play Georgia at Georgia, and then they could play Michigan in Los Angeles for the title. Yeah. And if they, and obviously, I don't even like saying the second part out loud because I'm not trying to jinx or whatever, but it's like, think about that opportunity. Like, think about if they pulled that off after the lowest of lows. And, again, like, I think people were cautious because we played Michigan last year and got housed. So people are like, oh, well, there's no way they're going to beat us this year at home with CJ Stroud's last home game. And there's no way it's going to happen this year. And then we get housed again. So these guys really got to dig down deep and figure out what they're made of because, they have the opportunity of a lifetime to play a Georgia team that's the best team in the country, but they're not what they were last year in terms of their overall stature and physicality. And last year's Georgia team lost the SEC championship to Bama. So, I mean.
And how did Bama beat them? You know what I mean? Bama threw the ball. They threw it all over them. You know what I mean? They stung them early with those wideouts, Jamison was tremendous, and Bryce Young was great. But Ohio State has those kind of guys. You know what I mean? They've got the QB. They've got the wideouts. So that was kind of the key in that SEC championship game. Bama just got on skates, and Georgia never could get a handle on them. And there's no way Stetson Bennett, much as I like him, he's not the guy you want in a 45-40 game. Bama got there 45. Georgia just could not keep up. Yeah. And then, of course, Kirby flipped the script on him in the championship game, as a good coach would do. But in that SEC title game, I think there's a lot of, like, maybe comparisons there that Ohio State can do to Georgia. But it's easy to say on a podcast. A lot to do on the field. But yet that's kind of, I think what they need to do is that type of offensive approach. I mean, Bama took a lot of shots in that game, a lot of deep shots, and they hit them. Jamison was tremendous in that game.
Yeah, I think that's the recipe, man. I think that, you got to take off and again, like we have, in my opinion, 2 of the top 5 receivers Marv's probably 1 or 2. And then Emeka, I think, is in the top 5 to 10 easily. And he's a kid that, if Marvin wasn't in front of him, I think a lot of people will talk about Emeka, about how proficient he is, how good he is. I think he's tough as nails. He's a guy that, again, I always say this every podcast. He's like Robert Woods. He's like Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's a guy that you could give him the ball on one of the press pass, just sweeps, get him on the edge, let him go get 6 or 7. He's a tough kid. He's not made of porcelain. He's not going to get hurt. I don't know, because like you got to get creative, and I think when there's plays where you can get their defense moving laterally and they have to chase and they can get a little gassed, like I think it's huge. I think they've got some interesting dynamics in that their fan base is more concerned about buying tickets to Los Angeles than Atlanta because they think they're just going to walk through the Buckeyes. And as you and I agree, Ohio State's the number 2 team in the country because the ultimate poll, the Las Vegas sports book, has them as
Sure.
the number 2 team to win the odds. And
Right.
Bank, explain that a little bit. Because again, you said that to me today, and I was like, damn, you're right. 3-1. Like, I mean, those guys, they don't play in Vegas. There's no feelings. There's no, well, these guys lost and this was a good loss. It's basically who has the best odds to win the title. Talk a little bit about that in Vegas and where they rank the Bucks right now.
Yeah, because the committee right now ranks Ohio State as the 4 team, which is not exactly them saying they're the number 4 team in the country, but it kind of is. You know, so say they're the number 4 team in the country, according to the committee. Well, if they beat Georgia, then they're going to play either number 2 or number 3. So committee logic suggests that 2 Michigan or 3 TCU should be favored over Ohio State if Ohio State's the 4. I mean, that's just like committee math, but that's not Vegas math. Ohio State would be a 10-point favorite over TCU. And they're going to be favored over, even though they've gotten blown out 2 in a row, they're probably going to be a 2 or 3-point favorite over Michigan on a neutral field, even though they've gotten murdered by Michigan the last 2 times. So if Michigan's killed them twice, Michigan's 2, Ohio State's 4, you would think Michigan would be a 10-point favorite in this game. Nope, not going to be that way. Ohio State will be the favorite. So that tells me Vegas has Ohio State as the number 2 team. And they're backing their opinions with money, not just whatever. The committee does. If the committee's wrong in their ranking here, it doesn't really matter. They're not going to get fired. They're not going to lose their jobs or their homes. If Vegas is wrong and they do lose things, they lose cash, lots of it. So that tells me that Las Vegas sees Ohio State as the number 2 team.
Yeah, I mean, how long are you going to be able to work for MGM Sportsbook if you consistently are wrong on your lines and you keep losing us a ton of money? I mean, are they going to keep you employed because they like you or because your brother's an athletic director somewhere and they want to put you on the committee, or they just put a bullet in your head?
No, the committee, you can be wrong on the committee and you'll come back next year. You're wrong often at the sports book. You're sweeping the floor instead of setting the odds.
Yeah, exactly. You're not on the computers. Gonna talk a little bit about some of the recruiting stuff because you had some really interesting stuff. We're gonna start at the quarterback, because we don't have a quarterback. It's almost like fantasy football right now where people are going like, don't take a quarterback till late. Don't take a running back because 0 running backs, all receivers. Like, we've got great receivers. It's almost like a fantasy football strategy. We have no running back and no quarterback. So this is like you're in the 15th round of the fantasy draft right now, trying to find a 3rd down back to play as your starting running back in your fantasy team. But Lincoln Kienholz is a kid that a lot of people probably thought would have flipped by now. Any trepidation? I know that we're sending the contingency out to out west to go see him, but any trepidation there that we could end up with no quarterback in this class?
Yeah. I mean, I've got a good connection to the Washington staff, and they feel really, really good that they're going to keep Lincoln Kienholz committed. Now, every staff feels that way. Everybody thinks their guys are solid, but this is not happy talk. They really feel they're going to keep that kid. But, the kid hasn't had Ryan Day in the living room yet and Corey Dennis. So I still give Ohio State a fighting chance or a puncher's chance. But like you said, the conventional wisdom was as soon as that kid got the Ohio State offer, he would have jumped it. And he has not done that yet. So if you don't get him, then, I don't know, because Dylan Raiola's not coming for a while. So, and injuries can happen. Things can go wrong. I think even if they do get Lincoln Kienholz, I kind of think you might want to take a portal quarterback if there's someone there that can play. Just to take a body, I'm not doing that. If I know the kid cannot possibly help me, what's the point? Yeah. But if there's somebody that can help you, man, you might want to take them because there's going to be an interesting battle in the spring between McCord and Devin Brown. And what does the loser of that battle do? As much as Ryan Day will try to prolong not naming his starter until fall, kids know. You always knew what the depth chart was, whether they told you or not. You knew.
Oh yeah.
No, there's the quarterback is interesting right now. It's an interesting deal.
How much, and again, I think I know what your answer is going to be to this. How much does the lack of a quarterback being in this class have to do with the number one overall player in the entire world the next year coming in Dylan Raiola?
Yeah, I'm sure it means a lot.
Oh,
And then when you look at, McCord and Brown have waited for their turn, and it's like, man, when am I ever going to get to play there? I still think they can get this Kindholz kid. I'm not saying it's over and done with there. I still think, let Ryan Day get in that living room and work his magic. So, but if they don't get him, then man, what do you do? You need to take one in every class, but boy, you hate to just take a body that cannot play. I mean,
yeah.
to me, that just doesn't make sense. Unless you have to take a body and hope you're wrong on him and he can play and you can develop him and coach him up and hope you never have to use him and you hope Dylan Raiola is ready to go as a true freshman. There's a lot of variables there. I mean, I don't like skipping any position in any class. Same with running back right now. Your running back room may look stacked until it doesn't. And a few weeks ago, you saw that. You saw that
Oh,
stacked running back room all of a sudden not be so stacked. So, yeah, I would not skip quarterback. I would not skip running back.
well, yeah, and with the portal, I mean, after the spring game that Evan Pryor had last year, they were scared to death he was transferring out. Like I know that for a fact. Like the people in the Woody Hayes were scared to death he was gone. So, they had to fight and scratch and claw to keep him there. And then all of a sudden, tears his knee up, and then Dallan Hayden steps in, and then you move Chip in, and that's a crowded ass room, man. I mean, you got,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
got, you got four guys that started games this year for Ohio State, and that doesn't count Evan Pryor, who, if Evan Pryor
right.
doesn't tear his knee up, he probably starts the Maryland game over Dallan Hayden. But yeah, that's the thing about depth nowadays with the portal is it's an illusion. It's kind of like Bama thought they had Tommy Brockermeyer ready to go at left tackle, the 5-star number 2 player in the country. Portal's out. He's gone. So it's going to be interesting to see if you would think that they would add a running back to this class, which name, obviously, for about 5 seconds, people thought Jamarian Wilcox would be it. Doesn't seem to be trending that way. Who do you think they could add to the class potentially as a body to add to the running back room?
Yeah, they kind of got, I don't know what word I want to use here. They got very disappointed instead of using a slang term, with Mark
Yeah.
Fletcher. That one hurt.
Yeah.
And that one, I'm the last guy that blames everything on NIL. And prior to NIL, you blamed every recruiting loss on the bag man. Everybody got bought. Everybody got, I'm the last guy for that stuff. But Mark Fletcher was an NIL loss.
Yeah.
He loved Tony Alford, loved Ohio State. It was strictly an NIL thing. And, with NIL, they don't put those contracts on the internet like they do in the NFL. I know what every person in the NFL is making, with their contract status. You just hear things. This is all we do. We just hear things. Well, with Mark Fletcher, what I heard was pretty staggering. And if it's true, then, and Miami's still in there fighting for him too. So Miami and Florida are going back and forth. This kid may end up, making more money than the rookie running backs made last year. So we'll see there, but that hurt Ohio State because they did a great recruiting job with Mark and they had him. They did nothing wrong to lose him. It's going to be an NIL loss. But then you've got Jamarian Wilcox, who got the offer from Ohio State. He's never set up a visit yet to Ohio State. So until he visits, you're not getting that kid. Until he sets up a visit and shows up, no reason for optimism there. And last time I checked, that visit had not been set yet. It's being discussed and talked about, but it sure looks like Kentucky's ahead of Ohio State. Clemson might be ahead of Ohio State. And then you got the in-state kid, Trey Cornist, that I like. I like him a lot. And I don't think he would be a body if they ended up taking him. And I might take 2 running backs in this class, even though it seems super crowded there. Man, I don't know. You know what I mean? You got Evan Pryor coming back off a bad injury. Trey coming back off a bad foot injury. Does Mayan end up throwing his name into the NFL early entry thing. He might. I mean, he's been at Ohio State a long time. So, and then does Chip go back to linebacker next year? He was kind of moved in an emergency thing. So, if I could get Wilcox, I might take Wilcox and Cornish just to make sure I had depth there. So it's interesting to see what Ohio State's going to do at the running back spot.
Who would you compare Wilcox to that you've seen over the last maybe 10, 15 years? Is there a guy that you're like, that's his style? Is he like a Diet Coke J.K. Dobbins? Is he something?
No. Probably like an Evan Pryor type.
Gotcha.
He's really short,
fast,
compact, built really well, fast. Yeah. Not the biggest guy in the world. I think they list him at like 5'8", 190 or something like that. It's probably an Evan Pryor type from his film. I know there's a lot of excitement around the country over him right now. And, I'm no college coach. I don't get it. Like, I'm not seeing it out of him but he's got a ton of offers and, a lot of people want him. So, maybe I'm wrong there. But I just don't see an impact Ohio State back out of him. I see a nice player.
Yeah. It's funny because like as quote down as we are on this class, because there isn't, we didn't get a quarterback yet. We don't have a running back yet. There's some guys that like I love in this class. Like I love Jelani Thurman. Like every time I watch his film,
me too.
I'm like, that guy might be the most talented tight end that we've had in a long time. Like really, like Ricky Dudley, like long time.
Yeah.
What do you think about Jelani? You think he's pretty? Yeah, I think adding the new tight ends coach, that doesn't hurt. Keenan Bailey, I think he's an energetic guy. He's kind of I've seen him work the South Florida Express kids when I was at camp with you 2 years ago. He's never acted like a quality control or an intern. He's always acted like a full-time coach, which is good. He's not shy. He's not scared to talk to guys and chop it up with guys. And he had a good rapport with Brandon and Ricky and Carnell. And Carnell wasn't an SFE kid then, but he's never acted like he's, I'm just a quality control guy. I can't recruit the way that Brian Hartline can. He just acts like he's Brian Hartline. Like, and that's not bad. It's kind of like a fake it till you make it thing. But do you have any thought that we could lose Jelani in the last 10 days or so?
Little bit. The three guys that I thought were maybe decommitting types were Jermaine Matthews, and he's now said he's 100% solid. Jelani Thurman has been to Auburn a lot. Ken Lee's been to Auburn a lot. And now you're looking at Auburn, a little bit desperate. They have Hugh Freeze. They now have NIL. There's a lot there that would make me worry. And of those three guys, I think if you're going to lose one, Ken Lee would be the one. I mean, I wouldn't want to lose any of them. Yeah. But, Ken Lee would be the one I think you could live with. Like, I don't want to lose Jelani Thurman, and I like Jermaine Matthews a lot. Like, I would take Matthews over Lee, but Jelani Thurman, like you say, I mean, man, especially when you look at the way Ohio State used Stover this year, and I think Jelani Thurman is a way more athletic, faster, quicker, than Cade Stover would be. Will he block like Stover? I don't know. But as a pass receiving threat down the seam, yeah, heck yeah. Give me Jelani Thurman. Like, I don't want to lose that kid.
Yeah, I mean, I think that some of the scheme we had for the tight end this year was really good. A lot of these hide plays, a lot of these delays, and it wasn't like we were just throwing them when we were up by 40 points. We were throwing them in like crunch time, and like you said, Cade, had that unfortunate drop against Michigan in the end zone where we talked about Gronk. He got a vice grip that thing like Gronk and not let it get punched out, and we threw it to him on 4th and 2 or whatever on that delay play down going to the closed end. But if I'm a tight end, I'm like, God, this is some really innovative stuff. And, you can get 5-6 catches in Ryan Day's offense playing tight end, which that was like unfathomable over the last 20 years, basically, under Urban, who never threw to the tight end, and Trust, who never threw to the tight end. And I mean, Ryan fed Cade this year. Cade, he did decent. Definitely. He had some drops this year, which hurt us, it killed us. But, I mean, he also has some big catches, So I think that if you get a guy who's, as talented or more talented or a better athlete, then I think you could really do some damage there. Because we're starting to use we used more 2 tight end sets this year than I've ever seen in the history of Ohio State. 2 and even 3 tight ends. We'd put in G. Scott with we
Yes.
put Mitch
Rossi.
Rossi in and
Yep.
Cade. So I mean, if you're a tight end, like, and again, I don't know if that changes with Kevin Wilson leaving, because Kevin Wilson was the OC. So when the OC is the tight ends guy, and all of a sudden it's like, all of a sudden we use tight ends way more. Like, I think that's that might have something to do with it. Anything else? The last thing we'll hit on, and we'll wrap this thing. The D ends is something that has just been. It's been like, Keon Keeley's off the board now, off to Bama. Doesn't surprise anybody. Mateo, Damon Wilson. I mean, Josh Mixon seems like he's in the boat. Maybe silently. I mean, he's the guy that he hasn't committed yet, but I just can't see him decommitting from LSU, not becoming a Buckeye.
Yeah.
Damon Wilson, percentage on the Bucks. Are we down to 10%, 20%, 0%? I mean, it seems like he's barking, bleeding bulldog, red and black so far. But what are your thoughts on Damon Wilson?
Yeah, I talked to the SFE guys and to kind of see what their vibe is, and they know guys down south real well. So what they told me was NIL absolutely a factor here, but the NIL money that we've seen thrown about is ridiculous. That money is not and this is what I'm being told. I don't know. I don't see the contracts, if there are even NIL contracts, but they just said Kirby Smart is not going to promise that kid $3 or $4 million, bring him into the, possibly 2-time defending national champions and totally upset his culture by giving an unproven kid more money than anybody on that roster could think of making an NIL. So I don't believe the money is accurate, what we're hearing, but I do believe NIL is a factor here. I was also told that Jim Knowles' stand-up position doesn't really appeal to him, although that surprises me because I think he does fit that position better than Jack Sawyer does. So that really surprises me that position specific would be an issue here. But I'm just going by what I was told. So, and then in terms of, is it over? I don't think it is over. I don't think it is. I mean, he doesn't seem like a game player to me, where he's dragging this out for the attention. He knows he's going to go to Georgia and he just wants to tease everybody to set up. He's not that kind of kid. So I think there is still a window for Ohio State. I've had him to Ohio State for a while in pencil with the eraser ready. I'm now switching it to, I think it's Georgia now, but still in pencil, not pen, not permanent marker. I think Ohio State still has a shot here. I don't think it's over. But you put a gun to my head, then I'm going to say I slightly think it's Georgia. But I could flip that back tomorrow if I hear something different. And like I say, with Mateo, I've always thought USC made the most sense because of the proximity and the music scene. And I had somebody that I really trust out west tell me today that USC is running third here, that it's OSU, Oregon, which makes me think if it's OSU, Oregon, I think OSU will get that kid. If what I'm told of USC running third, and I think development is the key here over NIL, because I think Big Dave has seen older son not be developed, and where's that kid headed? Well, he's going to want the younger kid in the absolute best situation to get that kid developed for the NFL. And I think Larry Johnson can win that one.
Yeah. I mean, I think that you nailed it. I mean, the funny thing about DJ Uiagalelei is he is the first guy to get the first huge NIL deal, because he had that big Dr. Pepper deal at the start of last season.
Right.
And he was the poster child for NIL. He was on national commercials, Heisman favorite. And again, like, that's great money. I don't know if it was $500,000 or $1 million or whatever it was to do a national thing on Diet Pepper. And it just it was like he signed that contract and it was just like the wheels fell off the wagon. And it's like, instead of waltzing towards the NFL as a 3rd-year junior #1 overall pick, he's in the portal and he doesn't have a home yet. So he's trying to figure out who's going to take him, where is he going to go, what system fits them. And again, like he's a guy that, going into his freshman year, he was fantastic, obviously.
I love him. I love the talent.
Yeah, with Trevor Lawrence. I mean, last year you picked Clemson, I think, to win the national title based off of his talent alone. And you weren't. I mean, but you weren't alone. I mean, we thought he was the next Trevor Lawrence. We thought he was the next phenom quarterback. And again, like Dr. Pepper, they're like a sports book. They're not just writing checks because they like a long last name. They like it because this guy's going to be the next superstar. This guy could win the Heisman this year. He was the Heisman favorite. So it's like, I mean. And the funny thing is, last year, him and Spencer Rattler came into the year as the two Heisman favorites. And, Spencer Rattler kind of resurrected his career at South Carolina. But
last
DJ,
2 games.
Yeah, the last 2 games, I mean, beats Clemson. And I don't know what he did or who he sold his soul to. But
he smoked Tennessee. I mean, he went through them like they were Akron or something.
Yeah.
Crazy game. I mean, when I saw DJ as a freshman, he had to come in and rescue them against BC. It was BC.
Yeah.
They were going to lose that game to Boston College. And he had to come in and rescue them. And then the very next week, he had to go to Notre Dame.
Oh, yeah.
And he did really well. They lost that game, but he played really well. And then Trevor went on to the NFL, and I thought, well, DJ will be the guy in college football. I didn't think it'd be C.J. Stroud or Bryce Young. I thought it'd be DJ. And I thought DJ would be a star. Based off of what I saw, those 2 games at the end of his freshman year, I thought he was ready. And, Clemson's got a lot of coaching changes, though, and Dabo does a lot of promoting from within. And I think that's something that, as we tear this back to Mateo, I think that's something that's going to have an effect on Big Dave. And Mateo is Larry Johnson. And Larry Johnson has not been promoted from within by somebody. He's not a 31-year-old, quality control guy. Larry Johnson's the best. And that could make the difference here.
Yeah, and I think that the arc of, JT2 Miloa, who is, he's got 1 year left as a junior. He'll declare for the NFL after next year. But, he started 80% of the games his freshman year, started every game this year. So it just proves, with Larry, he's not scared to play freshmen. Not scared to start guys. Zach Harrison's taken off for the league. We're pretty thin at defensive end. I mean, you're going to have Jack and JT back, and who knows what's going to come of the D tackle spot with Mike Hall and Tyleek if they both stick, if they hit the portal. There's a lot of rumors. I think that I'd imagine they'd stick. I don't know why they'd leave when, you could have maybe the most talented group of true juniors that we've ever had across the starting D line. And then if you're Mateo, you're that next D end. And the way Larry rotates guys, I mean, there were a lot of snaps this year where we had 3 DNs on the field when we did that Jack stuff. They put Jack standing up, and they put Zach and JT as the 2 DNs. And that's not the system and I think that's what, when you talk about Damon Wilson not liking that system, is it basically turns into a 3-4 like the Steelers run. So your ends they're tighter, they're more head up, they're more run focused, and then Jack Sawyer has to kind of read the guard and figure out what hole he's going to hit, or if he's going to go with the pulling guard. And I've studied the nuances of playing the Jack position probably more than anybody, probably more than Jack Sawyer himself. So, it's not a super glamorous position like people make it out to be, because you got to go take on a guard that weighs 320 pounds and is pulling around to kill you, and you got to go chop his knees, or you got to do something to keep him off of Tommy Eichenberg and Steel Chambers. So it's not like, it's not like the thing you sign up for when you're like, man, I want to be this Chase Young, hand down, ass in the air, sprinter stance.
Go around the tackle and get chipped by a 185-pound back, and knock him down too.
Yeah, because that's the Nick Bosa, Joey Bosa, Chase Young mold. And honestly, I think that we need more of that. We need more of that, those looks where these guys can just tee off and go rush the passer and not do all this exotic stuff when you don't have to. Like at Ohio State, this isn't Oklahoma State. You've got guys that can win. You just got to let them win. You can't do all this. You can't have them dropping into coverage and doing things to try to fool everybody. Because when you've got better players, you don't have to fool people anymore. So last 2 names, and these will get progressively funnier. Caleb Downs, Andy Chancebank.
Slight. He did reaffirm last week to Bama. He
Yeah,
did say, hey,
I saw that.
we don't win championships at Bama, but I've heard that song and dance before. Carlton Davis told me that too a couple days before signing day, and then he didn't sign with Ohio State. So let's see. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and tell you they're getting Caleb Downs. I know they'd like to get Caleb Downs. If I was recruiting safety, I'd want Caleb Downs. But so we'll see. I don't think it's a total dead thing, but maybe close to dead. There have been surprises before, and that would be a surprise if they got him.
Yeah. Last one, just to get a great big laugh out of you as you sign off. You've done just a kick-ass job in his last year. Samson Okunloa, he named his Final Four. It's the money schools plus Michigan State. Do we have a chance at Samson Okunloa?
I don't think he knows where Ohio State is. He's certainly not going to look back on all his visits. I know that.
Oh my God, he's driven to East Lansing.
He doesn't have any bad memories from bad visits. I can tell you that.
Oh my God, it's that was the greatest one ever. That was like the Blair Witch Project or something in terms of mysteries, where it's like, so he might come to camp, it might come to the Michigan game, and it's like he finally does his Final Four, and it's Miami, Florida, Michigan State, and Bama. And I'm like, Michigan State? I was like, he went and visited Michigan State? Like, why would you ever go to Michigan State?
He'll go to Florida, I believe.
Yeah.
Florida can play the NIL game really well, and I think that's where that one's probably headed.
Yeah, well, it was always fun to talk about old Samson because we never could quite get him to campus, could we? So, any parting shots, Bank? You got the Bank chat tomorrow, and then you get to load up the jet and head out to Vegas and enjoy yourself. I hope you have a blast. Any parting shots, Bank, for the night?
No, nothing really right now. We're just if you're an Ohio State fan, your team's playing they're in the finals, man. They're semifinals. They're in the dance, and that's something I think that's always something to celebrate. Ohio State's only got 3 titles in the last 50 years. So when you're in the dance here, this could be number 4. I mean, they're a 6.5-point underdog to Georgia. It's not 26.5.
Yeah.
Okay. 6.5 point is, those underdogs win. The 26-point underdogs, they don't ever win. The 6-point underdogs, they win those games. It happens. It can happen. So there's a path. I think people should be more excited than what they are, but far be it from me to tell people how they should feel, and I understand the double kicks to the nads from Michigan hurts, but maybe we're going to see number 3. Maybe they get that ultimate, the ultimate revenge game.
Yeah.
We'll see.
I'm with you, man. It's like, look, I said it at a point in this, they could go down as the greatest Ohio State team ever. They have an opportunity to go to Georgia and beat Georgia, the defending champions who haven't lost in 2 years. And they have an opportunity potentially then to go play Michigan for a second time and right the wrongs. Like, you don't get opportunities like that in life, like ever. So I mean,
we'll sell some sweatshirts. I'll tell you what, you might want,
fuck.
The sweatshirt people better have that screen ready to go, because man, if that does happen, it will be the most excitement that I've ever seen over an Ohio State team. I don't know if that makes them the best team, but it sure is going to make them the most exciting and maybe the most beloved team.
Dude, I'm telling you, if they win that, because again, I've been around the O2 guys. I mean, if you lose a game and you don't win the Natty, they don't do any celebrations for you ever. You can go 12-0 like the 2012 team did. They bring you out on the field, everybody claps. If you go 11-1 and you lose the Natty, or 12-1 and lose the national title like we did, nobody claps for you. They don't even have a celebration for you. We won the Big Ten. We beat 3 number 1 ranked teams. Doesn't matter. Nobody cares. You got to win the big dog. And the thing is, it's still in front of these guys. People talk about what's CJ Stroud's legacy. I'm like, I don't know. I have no clue. Yeah. I'm like, I have no clue what his legacy is. I mean, like, wait, give me 3 weeks and I'll tell you what his legacy is. Like, and then give me 4 weeks and he could have the greatest legacy. He could be the greatest quarterback in Ohio State history. literally.
Yeah.
You know,
Like I say, people are dumping on Ryan Day right now and dumping on CJ. What I say is there's time for dumping, but I don't think it's now. The time for dumping is when everything's over, and then you can really vent about this year. Lost
yeah.
to Michigan again, lost to Georgia 41-9. Yeah, then you can vent. But right now it's too soon to vent. Too soon to dump on them, these guys. The final chapter has not been written. Let the
Yeah.
season play out and then fire away. They deserve to be chastised, dumped on. Go ahead. But wait till the final chapter's written. Book's not closed yet.
Yeah. And you got to play the games. I'm telling you, Florida game, we lose Ted getting on the first play, changes everything. We play Alabama. Now, granted, that was probably the best Alabama team ever in 2020 when they killed us. But, like, you know, we lose Chase Urban on the first play of the game after he had 2 straight 300-yard games. So it's like, you know, everything kind of – so why couldn't that happen to Georgia? Why couldn't they lose, like, a star? Now, granted, I don't think they have anyone that's as significant as that other than Jalen Carter. And defensive tackles don't make the impact that, like, a receiver or running back makes, in my opinion. But you never know. That's why you got to play the games. And I hope that the team is using all of this negativity to really close ranks and really bunker down, like almost like they're the Spartans when there's 300 of them all under the shields when everybody's just dogging them and dumping on them. Because, you know, use that as motivation. I mean, you guys are going to play Georgia. Nobody's going to pick you to win. You can just let it all hang out. Let it all go loose. There's no tightness. There's no nothing. You have nothing to lose. You're in the poker game. Like, who cares?
Yeah.
You know, you're in Atlanta. You're playing Jordan. You know, it's like, fuck. I mean, let's let it loose. You know, I mean, you've seen this in Super Bowls and you've seen this in national title games where the underdog comes back and wins. It was like, again, we played Bama in 14. Nobody picked us to win that one. Derrick Henry, Amari Cooper, like, you know, Cam Robinson.
Really. They were getting beat up early too and made a huge comeback. So, and you just let the stuff play. That's my parting shot. Let the stuff play out and then praise them or crucify them. But know what you're talking about because it'll be over then. It's not over now. You might be dumping on somebody who's a national champion. You might be dumping on somebody who goes down as the greatest quarterback in Ohio State history, first pick of the draft. And here you are cracking on this kid. There's time for cracking. We've seen cracking. There's a time for it. It's not now. It's not now.
Yeah. And like I said, I hope these guys are listening to all this and they're motivated because I don't know how you couldn't be motivated if you're a competitor listening to this. So, well, Bank, I appreciate you, man. I'm going to wrap this thing up. As always, you are the man. Going to wrap this thing up. Bank, you are done for the night. Appreciate you, brother. You can head off to the board. Thank you guys for joining us. Appreciate you guys. We're doing this. This is always fantastic. We love having you guys on here. Not as many questions today. Sorry about the technical difficulties with Nevada. He had to skate out of there. His phone is on the fritz, but we got Bank and I for the duration, which was fantastic. So I hope you guys have a great night. I'm heading on to BuckeyeScoop.com to grind and get on that board. Talk to you guys again, guys. I think we need, to support these guys. Again, these guys got whipped pretty bad by Michigan, and then they got whipped even worse by their own fan base. So why don't you try to be the best damn fans in the land and support these guys? You know, say, hey, guys, we got you. You know, go let it all hang out. Screw it. What's the worst that can happen? You lose. I mean, it sucks, but it's just part of the gig. I mean, Tom Brady's lost Super Bowls before. Michael Jordan lost in the playoffs before. You know, but you got to show up and you got to go get after it. And again, our talent is extreme. Like, we have the best set of receivers in the entire country. We have one of the top 3 quarterbacks in the country. We have a great set of tackles on the O-line, a great center. Defensively, we have talent all over the place. And I know the Michigan game was disappointing and it was a blowout, but I think we've learned a lesson from that. I think we learned that, we're a little too hyper aggressive. A couple guys didn't make plays. It was kind of a Murphy's Law game where some things went wrong and stuff happens, and when you call the perfect play and guys don't execute what they're supposed to do, it's hard. It leads to long plays, especially when you run that super aggressive defense that Jim Knowles likes to run. So, but I'm excited about it. I'm excited to see the plan that we have. I think our guys are going to be hungry. Get down there to Atlanta, support them. Have a great night. Appreciate you guys. If you enjoyed this content, please leave us a like, comment down below Who needs to step up for the Ohio State Buckeyes to beat the Georgia Bulldogs? I'm going to say Matt Jones. I'm going to say whoever's in at right guard against Jalen Phillips. Jalen Carter. Jalen something. 88. Superstar. Best player probably on the entire field. Defensive tackle for Georgia. He's a werewolf, man. And we got to have whoever's playing right guard. We got to be ready to rock and roll. Donnie Jackson, made first team All Big Ten. You know, he's got to be ready to rock and roll because those guys got to carry it because that guy, he gets upfield, super twitched up. One of the best pass rushing defensive tackles I've ever seen. Scouts are saying he's the best pass rushing defensive tackle since Aaron Donald. So we got to step up and be ready to block him. So leave your comments below. Appreciate you guys as always. Thank you so much, Buckeye Nation. And thank you, Scoop family. I hope you guys have a great rest of your night. See you guys on BuckeyeScoop.com. We have the all-day legendary Bill Greene bank chat tomorrow, Wednesday, before he gets a little R&R out in Vegas. So tune into that. That'll be an excellent day. Appreciate you guys. Go Bucks. Beat the Bulldogs. See you on BuckeyeScoop.com.